Imagine being in a war zone, surrounded by your team, only to be attacked by one of your own. On March 22nd, 2003, that nightmare became a reality. Stay tuned to hear his account firsthand, which will make you rethink what it means to trust, to lead, and to survive. If you think threats always come from the outside, this episode will open your eyes. Maybe even save a life. Have you ever been stabbed in the back? Try being shot at by someone on your own team. That's what happened to Command Sergeant Major Bart Womack. This story is real, it's wild, and he is here with us this week. Thank you so much for being here, Bart.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate
Of
it.
course. You have seen the worst of humanity and some of the best leadership. Where do you go from there?
Well, I guess I would say that you take the worst of humanity, and there's always lessons to be learned. There's always a takeaway. You've got to figure out what the lesson is. This particular thing, way before we get into it, you have to lies, lost, and bodies mangled, like what's to be learned. But there's always the takeaway, and you just have to figure out what it's good.
Right. In 2003, you survived Camp Pennsylvania's attack in Kuwait, Iraq, by one of your own soldiers. That has to be the most, what's the word I want? Like, not disgrace, but like, yeah, that a military person could ever do is to attack their own.
Yeah, it's quite, it was quite eye-opening, and I don't know that I ever had a reaction. I don't know that I ever really reacted to when the time to react to the fact of who it was. It's like preparing a game and learning against one of our own, but there wasn't like this, oh my gosh, or I can't believe it. I don't think I ever said that. Everything happened so fast, and even after it, I never sat down and said, can't believe that happened. Probably did happen. So then it was really the mindset of understanding that if it happened once, it can happen again. I think that was really on my mindset. I mean, immediately it was how to prevent it from happening first and foremost, but it can happen again.
Right, for sure. And this happened in the very early morning, correct? Everybody was sleeping.
Yeah. Right. So I'll walk you in the audience through it. So March 22nd, 2003, to start it up, we had already been deployed to Kuwait for the invasion of Iraq. We was at what's called an intermediate staging base at Camp Pennsylvania, it was called. And I've been there for about 22 days. I've been there a little bit more. And then we had put the final touches on our plan, our particular part of the plan to invade Iraq, at least from our unit's perspective. Now, we're part of the first one division, first brigade combat team. So there's about 4,000 plus of us, plus on this particular camp. We had another unit there, which made it about 5,000 people on this camp. Camp was about, I tell people, 10 football fields big. It was probably 20. It was humongous. It's so hard to describe. And all around it, just imagine a big old circle, was a 12-foot berm of dirt, on an incline. And then at the top of that comes a tin one. So very hard to kind of penetrate. And then it had guard towers all around it that people were manning. So we put the final touches on our plan, and it was almost like a release to have done that, later in the day. It started to get dark, and not necessarily let your hair down, but it's relief. Okay, we finally have this done now. When we're going to be crossing the border to invade Iraq. That particular time, this is a Saturday. At that particular time, it was scheduled to be a Thursday. Um, I was going to watch golf that night. The unit that was at Occupy Campus available for us had a television. And the television was in the tent where myself and the commander and the brigade executive officer slept. So I figured out how to get golf on television. So let's go watch golf. Big Tiger Woods fan, and Tiger was playing what's called the Arthur Palmer Invitational. So I went to this new shop that we had on the camp. They bought some snacks and everything. And I was going to settle in and watch some golf, eat my snacks. And our ammo just came right before it started getting dark. That was delivered. And my driver had bought my ammo. So I had that in the tent. I was going to load ammo. I was like, let's take off my snacks. I was not ready for it. So I'm there watching golf and loading magazines, and the tent flap would just kind of blow, and you could do a scrape up against the ground and kind of get your attention. Oh, it's just the weird. And then it happened the second time. So this table I'm sitting at was at the end, kind of the far right of the table, right at the end, where I could see the floor in front of me. And I see these sparks. And I just immediately know that this is some type of grenade that's sparking before it explodes. And so I jump up, run to the back of the tent to get the commander up, who was asleep. It's the first time he had gone to sleep early, which is like 10 o'clock at night. And the executive officer is there at 10 as well. He was on the other side of the table. He could see what I saw, so I knew he could take care of himself. But the commander who was asleep had no idea what was going on. So I run to the back of the tent, get him off. Hey, you got to get up. There's a grenade about to go off. You got to get out of here. I give him time to put on his boots, and I count to 3. I said, you're going to run on 3. I count to 3, take off running, right down the middle on it. So then has a front entrance, they really a back entrance, but the back is closed and called a temperature. So this huge air conditioning heating unit in the back, and you really can't get out because it's all tied up. So really the exit was the front of where the grenade rolled in. So I'm running down the aisle with my hand up as if my arm's going to technically flip a grenade. They know what I'm doing. I'm just running like this down the middle of the aisle. And I get outside. It's pitch dark outside. And the commander's not there. So I don't know where he is. Now I'm calling for him in hushed tones. I don't want to give my position away. And no response. And then I hear a gunshot. And I hear a yell. And I know that it's the brigade executive officer. I could feel that I passed by him as I was running out of the tent. So his tent had this little entrance called the vestibule. And I could feel that he was in there as I was running out. So when I heard that shot and heard that yell, I knew it was him. So I reached for my weapon, cocked it, it has a magazine in it, but it doesn't have ammo. So when it has ammo in it, and you cock it, it goes. When it does it just goes in the bolts to the rear because the magazine with no ammo just walks it to the rear. So I'm really kind of screwed at this point. People say don't bring a knife to a gunfight. You don't bring a weapon. Of course, put no rounds to a gunfight either. So the only way I knew to arm myself, I think the fastest was to go to the top, which is about 20 yards behind me. So I run to the top, running to holler and give me an M4, give me ammunition, and give me night vision goggles so I can see. I position people inside the top at all the entrances to guard the top, which is tactical operations center. And I thought I'd get the weapon and everything and go back to my tent. To look for the commander and executive officer. I'm Paul there's supposed to hear that dog or not.
I don't.
And here, okay. All right, so you know to stop there. I'll pick up. So I go back to my tent to look for the commander and executive officer, and they're not there. So I immediately go back to the top, and no one's outside but me. Like, no insurgents are out there. No one else is outside. I go back to the top. I summon someone to go to my tent to look for them. Just keep looking for them until you find them while I look for the enemy. So there's no sign of the end. Like there's nothing. And the time it took me to do that, when I come back out the second time out of the truck, the grenade had exploded in the second tent. The grenade had exploded in the third tent. Yeah, I'm in the first tent. So when it exploded in the first, when it exploded in the second, when it exploded in the third. And then another person is shot. So when I come out the second time, I'm challenged. And someone says, like, who's there? I identify myself. And he asked me what's going on. I said, I don't know what's going on. Major Roland's been shot. And he says, with the last Captain Sleeper. So now we know we have 2 people shot. Still no wire as to finding the insurgents before identifying anything. So the people in the second tent, they began to get up after the gunshot and the explosion at the first tent. And a grenade explodes at a 15-degree radius. So if you're below the 15 degrees, you're probably safe. Anything above 15 degrees, you're in the right smack down the middle of the blast area. So because some of them had started to stand up when that grenade came into that tent and exploded, 2 of them that were standing up like caught a lot of the shrapnel. They're spreading all over the place. Even if you weren't up, no matter where you were, you got hit if you were 15 degrees above that blast. In the third tent, some of them had began to come out of it there. One of them was shot point blank in the back. One had began to exit the tent and realized he forgot his ammo, went back inside the tent to get his ammo. But then when he started to come back out again, that's when that grenade exploded in that tent. He was 17 inches away from the grenade. As well as other people that were in the tent. So got hit with shrapnel there. So now, the search is on, for the insurgents. That's what happened. 2 people shot. Other people are injured by grenade shrapnel. I was putting people in security positions on this little wall that was there around the top. So you have to get to be mindful here that we had all these people in the camp, but the headquarters is the only part that has been attacked. And it's kind of smack down in the middle of the camp, almost. So everything around us is our own soldiers. But we're putting perimeter there to guard that area. And the weapons are pointing out, but they're pointing out if there would be an insurgent, as well as pointing out they're our own soldiers. So that's kind of sets everything up. So at this point, the triage begins with the casualties, trying to get them identified, who's most critical. When I went back into that talk that second time, I asked for reinforcements of a platoon to come over to help. Then the medic was on the radio and asked if we needed a FLA was filled with or ambulance. I told her yes, and that of the talk. So the triage is happening. The field stretchers are getting loaded into this FLA. FLA is moving from that location over to the aid station that's on the camp. So once all of them are taken to the aid station, they're being treated there to be loaded onto a medevac helicopter, taken to a combat support hospital. Okay. So all these things are happening simultaneously while, again, putting people in positions to guard that area. The intelligence officer had been walking around all night, checking bunkers. The good siren is going off. It's just massive chaos at this point. We had a light that was in the vicinity of the tunnel, which was turned off during the attack. So we finally got that turned on so we could see. There's still no signs of insurgents. So I think something had to have changed in your camp. And then I'm told that interpreters that came in the night before, well, bingo had to be them, go find them. So after a quick search, you find the interpreters, got them on the ground, hands behind their head, weapons pointed at their heads. We take them into custody, interrogate them, just to learn that they have nothing to do with it. So now we're back to square one for the insurgents. So at this time, the first helicopter lands on a medevac. Some people are being loaded So he's been loaded on that. Helicopter takes off and it flies to the cans, which is about a 1 minute flight, about 500 meters away. Maybe pretty much up and down. That one takes off, the freaking helicopter lands, and it is being loaded. A huge fireball is in the sky, and we don't know what it is. But all we ascertain is that now we're being attacked from the ground in the air. So we think that it was a scud that was shot out of the air, right? Fast forward this particular part, we learned that it was actually a British Tornado fighter jet returning from a mission. And the picture inventory, after hearing gunshots and explosions on the ground, just figured that fast moving object was a scud installed on their radar and shot it down. So now we have friendly fire going. We shot down an Allied jet. We've been, United States Army. So that second helicopter medevac, they're being told because of that explosion and not knowing what it is, that they can't go to the cannon that's a 1 minute flight away. They have to go to a different cannon 75 kilometers away. So Captain Stephen, who got shot in the back, was on that flight that arguably, may have cost him his life. Search is still on for the insurgents. There's no clue evidence. The commander finally brought him to the top. He had actually, when he came out of the tent, him and XO had wandered into the second tent to help out with some of the triage in that tent. They kind of get to the wherewithal and everything, and orders that we need to get accountability of our personnel. When that call goes out, we learned that one person is missing, Sergeant Akbar, saw our grenades and ammunition. So that's when he becomes the number one suspect. So the search goes off of him. Upon hearing this news that come out of the talk, I'm telling leadership that know who we're looking for. And so they had to go look in the question of, you mean it's one of our own? Yeah, he's playing the same thing we are. So I'll let you decide how you're going to tell your subordinates of what we're looking for. I'm not going to tell you how to do that. Major Warren, the intelligence officer, came out at the same time I did. Like I thought he was checking bunkers all night. So he realized when he came out that there was one bunker that he hadn't gone to. Now he'd been walking around, like I said, checking bunkers. There's pistol in his hair. Started walking toward this bunker like he had done all night and who's in the bunker. So when he asked, the response is, Sergeant Akbar. Akbar doesn't know we're looking for him. And there was another person in the bunker, that person responds. So you got to think about this. So Akbar's the guy's missing. He's the number one suspect. He's in the bunker with somebody else. But right now, allegedly had done something. We have to find out if he had or not. So he hosted his weapon, Major Warren does, and then he keeps walking. Is it positions himself behind Akbar and takes him down? That's not exactly it. So when had he done there, the answer was yes. And why he did it, said to keep y'all from killing our women and raping our children. So at the time, I didn't know what OUR meant. I didn't put Akbar two and two together that the hour did not make sense to me at that particular moment. So then he's apprehended, he's flexed cuffs. So he gets his weapon and gives it to me. And I smell it to see if it's been originally fired, and it hadn't. By the time he was being flexed cuffed and everything, I had gone to my tent to get ammo, finally. Into other gear, because I didn't have that on either. And but I noticed when I went into my tent that I saw a piece of brass laying on the ground. And also inside my tent, where on a flat, that whole area was just devastated from the grenade blast. Like my whole area was just to the point where, had I been sleeping, I watched Tiger Woods play golf, then I wouldn't be talking to you right. You wouldn't be hearing this story from me. So now I'm pissed. I mean, I went up over here. So I'll leave my tent. I go back over to where he's apprehended. That's when they give me that weapon. I smell it. I can tell it's been recently fired. I take it and back to my tent area, where the piece of brass is. and kind of lay them side by side. I didn't clear the weapon, which is standard, SOP, if you will, to clear the weapon to make sure it's safe. But I didn't clear it. I turned it on safe, but I didn't clear it because I didn't want to disturb the ammunition. And here's the reason why. Those rounds, they have numbers on the back, which means they come from the same lot. The numbers are called a dodic. Don't ask me what that means. I don't remember. But the numbers are the same. So that piece of brass on the ground, those numbers, if it came from that weapon, would match the ammunition that's in that weapon. So include that round that was cavered. So put the weapon down there, found the window guard, and say, if you stay there, I'm the only person that can be lit. So you can, you can say that I watched too much CSI to come up with that one. I don't know where that came from, but it was a very pivotal, move to account for him having, shot those part of rounds. There was also some grenades that he had that I told the guy to put those back in the bunker. That was the safest place to look. So in my case, I told you that first grenade came in that sparked first. That was actually an incendiary grenade. It starts fires. Now, again, I saw the sparks. I wasn't going to go over and look and say, what is that? Oh, it's not one that's going to blow up. Yeah, I wasn't doing that.
I don't blame you.
So I had no idea. I had no idea which kind of grenade it was. In fact, I tell people that we were in the land of not quite right, and that was a not quite right grenade that was sparking before it blew up. That was as close as I was going to get. But the reason the commander didn't make it hard attack was because a frag grenade had been thrown into the tent, and that did blow up. It knocked him back into the speaker. And he was injured from that grenade. So we have him in custody, and like I said earlier, you couldn't fathom that it would be one of your own, but so my takeaways from that was that we don't go home with people at night, so we don't know what they're planning, right? And that no profession, level of education, ideology, or religion is above reproach. There is no profile that inside a threat closer than you think. Yeah, I want you and your audience to continue to hold the military in high regard. Just not to banish anything, but there's rogues everywhere. We didn't know that he was joining the military to commit this attack. So there's bad ones everywhere.
Do you think
So
the
someone used the
military
military to do
missed
it.
some red flags on mental health or?
That's a good one. In this particular case, no, he was not the best of performing soldiers, but there's all bunch of those, believe it or not. Still maintained the rank of sergeant when in fact it wasn't bad enough for him to be busted from sergeant to specialist. He wasn't working in his job for that rank, but he was still a sergeant. So some discipline calls. Not the first, there's a whole bunch of those. All of them don't tie tribute, but there's a whole bunch of those, right? So he was, I don't remember if he was seeing any medical professionals at that time. I just knew he wasn't the best of the performer. That was kind of the thing. But here's why there wasn't a red flag on mental health. 2 years later, there's a trial in 2005. So in the trial, a diary was recovered and used as evidence in the trial. In 1993, he wrote, "I do not like the military. They have too much control over people's lives. I suppose I am just anti-government. A Muslim should see himself as a Muslim only. His loyalty should be to Islam only." Now, that's his words, but I will tell you that religion doesn't pull the trigger, people do. 1996, he wrote, "Anyone stand up fighting me shall be considered the enemy and dealt with accordingly." 1996, "Destroying America was my plan as a child, as a juvenile, and in college. My life will not be complete unless America is destroyed. Destroying America is my greatest goal." 1998, he joins the military. So you see, this was planned. February 2003, remember this was March 2003. he wrote, "I am not going to do anything as long as I stay here at Fort Campbell. But as soon as I am in Iraq, I'm going to try to kill as many of them as possible." Well, there was no sign of that because that was in his diary. And that's why I think they'll go home with people at night. We don't know what they're doing, what they're playing. He was good enough not to leak out what he was planning to do. I do think that, he says when he gets to Iraq, he didn't wait for Iraq. You know what happened in Kuwait. But as soon as the ammo came, it happened. So he was on guard. So our ammo came, like I said, right before dark. So the commanders had a choice to either put a guard on it or issue it in the morning when it was light, or turn on lights, put vehicles and issue it that way. This unit, like the one of our subordinate units, decided they would put a guard on it. They should, in daylight. So he was on the guard. And it was him and another soldier. He told that soldier, "Hey, I'll take over the rest of the shift for this last half hour or whatever. Just go to sleep. I got it from here." Well, sorry to tell him. Why did he go to sleep? When that happened, he opened up the crates of ammo, took out what he needed, the grenades and all that type of stuff, and locked the attack. Now, where he was guarded, ammo was about 300 meters from the headquarters. And the way the tent and everything was set up where he was, if the whole modus operandi was if to kill, he could have killed a lot more. And coming over to the headquarters. But his mindset was, "I'll take out the head, the body will follow." Head meaning headquarters personnel. Body meaning all of our soldiers in the entire Major. From a mindset, just of this happening, people being devastated and all that. Which it worked. Obviously, they attacked the headquarters, but it worked to the point where, people were devastated and not understanding and all that type of stuff. So later that day, it happened about 1 a.m. So now it's midday. CID is doing their investigation and everything, and let's take everything out of the tents. And several of our soldiers was along this wall, and you could see their heads down, they're grieving, and they needed to grieve. I get it. But the looks on their faces and everything, I was like, there's no way we can cross that border and fight over war. It ain't happening. I'm looking at their faces. It ain't gonna happen. And I just told them all to get out of here. I don't care where you go. I know you gotta agree, but you ain't gonna do it here. Go someplace else, out of my sight, or I can't see you. So they can't find a place and go do it. I'm sure they thought I was crazy, but they didn't see what I saw. And but I knew that. I knew this unit at that particular time couldn't go fight the war. So
You were just did one.
yeah, yeah. It's a little different when you go to a war and you know who the enemy is, and you're like, they're on that side, you're on this side. It's different when they're right behind. They've been shooting in your back, literally. So he's taking off CID and it takes him. But when he shot the guy point blank in the back, the fourth tent, people had begun to come out of his head right as that soldier fell. And then they saw, now we know it to be Akbar, just kind of keep running. Everything was happening really fast. They came out of it, fall, but it's dark. And one person thought that he saw 2 people run, which meant that there was an accomplice. Now, CID ruled out the fact that there being an accomplice, right? But this guy who said it had known him for 14 years. And even though CID said no, there wasn't an accomplice, he did this on, just by himself. That just kind of stuck with me. 1. And then 2, one of my soldiers trying to kill me. Is there somebody else? CID says no, but we had one do it. They just said no, wouldn't happen in the first place, too. So that night, I have a platoon of our own soldiers come over, guard that headquarters area. So you can imagine the perimeter around the headquarters, guarding the headquarters from our own soldiers. So they're the circle is imagine that the perimeter and they're facing out. But they're up to the point that the rest of our command. So suffice it to say, the first thing that went out the window for me was trust.
I'd say so.
Like that's gone.
Betrayed,
That's gone.
yeah.
It's just gone. Yeah. So that's what happened that night. So we did it most of the next night. So after that first night, that happened that night, and then the next day we had a memorial service for one of the guys that got killed. And then the next day we left. So that's probably the best thing that happened to us. We crossed the border to go on joyride. So being moved up 2 days.
That's insane. And I mean, the betrayal is just so deep. And how do you come back from that? Especially like when you come back home, did that stick with you? That, you can't trust people the way you thought you could.
Yeah, well, like I said, the best thing that happened to us was to leave that camp and head toward Iraq. So that's one. But then in doing so, okay, now we have another enemy. I like to say the real enemy. So we have the known enemy. That's what we have. Now we have the known enemy. So it's a little bit different. And with the known enemy is the more unknown, but you know they're that way. Like they're right there in front of you, not coming from behind you, like this one. So it's a little bit different. I mean, it definitely takes over your mind. It becomes war, you know. So that probably stuck with me. I think it stuck with a lot of people. Believe it or not, that happens in the very, very beginning. And now we are still a year into Iraq that we're there. Like no one ever talked about that. Like nothing was ever said. Now, why I don't know. Is it I think you move on because you have to move on? Because the end is still this war going on. You still have these things going on. And it's just going to happen now that people have to deal with it each night before they went to bed or, daily. I don't know. But you never heard about it. No one talked about it. You didn't see anyone that looked like they were visibly dealing with it or anything like that. Like there wasn't a time where we had to kind of put counseling or send someone someplace by virtue of something that happened that night, which is pretty surprising, to be honest with you. Especially those who were injured, but not bad enough to be medevac. That wasn't a medevac. They're so severe that they never came back.
I can't imagine
So the
that you
trial
would go
happens.
on for another year.
Yeah. I just think you if it wasn't for the war, then maybe things would have been different. But because there was a war going on, I mean, I never thought about it. There wasn't a time where it came up that it was more present day. Don't ask me, there's nothing that prepares you for that. Everyone's made up differently. But that's the way it happened for me. That someone bought, every time it was brought up was that there's a thing called an Article 32 hearing. So they have to have this hearing to decide if there's going to be a court martial or not. Of course, there was going to be one, but you still have to do the hearings, the procedure, right? So we had to do that by, video teleconference. That was the only time that incident came up. And that teleconference was probably on there for about 30 minutes or something like that. But that whole year, that's the only time that came up. So fast forward 2 years, 2 years after that, the trial happens in 2005. He's convicted of 2 counts of premeditated murder and 3 counts of attempted premeditated murder. They sentenced to death for sitting there like the United States disciplinary barracks for Leavenworth care. So there's 4 people there on death row, but you should be mindful that no one's been executed since 1961.
You had someone looking over you that night.
Rest assured, there's no doubt about that. A gal looking over me. I think you play golf with your wife. because I had not been playing golf, and that grenade where I slept would have ended me. And he rolled in the frag grenade instead of the incendiary grenade, then I never would have saw sparks. And it wasn't, I didn't hear it come in. The tent flap kind of moved, but it moved probably 5 minutes prior to that because the wind would blow and it just scrape up against the fork. But I didn't see that come across. I just saw the sparks. But I hadn't been a frag grenade, then it didn't spark first. The incendiary grenade is like a torch. I think your turtle was like that almost, but it sparks then commit the flames, right? And start the fire. That's its purpose. But the frag grenade just laid there and exploded. So had he thrown that instead of the incendiary, then I'm still in there. Like I told you, 50-degree radius, 15-degree radius, I'm sitting right here. All this is just big. Yeah. So, definitely. I like to say that, for a purpose that God put that in me to write this book and tell the story, to make people aware of that. And additionally, to do the work of providing proactive situation awareness strategies to mitigate mass shooting, inside threat attacks in academic institutions, the workplace, and places of worship. Because as I was writing the book, all these others attacks with it. And I would look at them and see if they align with this one. Is it an insider threat? In my opinion, if a student commits a shooting at a school, it's an insider threat. The mass shooter or the mass shooting is just, that's the result. That's not what it's called. I know that's what they call it, but if you had and now they're using cars, had to kill people, students with cars, it wouldn't be called a mass shooting. It'd just be, you know, whatever they call those. I'm not even sure what they call it. Other than, you kill students with a car, or people with a car. But my point is, it's more than 90% of the time that someone is from the inside. It's a fellow student, it's a fellow employee, it's someone who knows the framework of the place that they're attacking, really on the inside. They know someone close on the inside that used to go to the school, they used to work there, they are currently working there, currently a student. So it's an insider threat. And that's the thing you're trying to get that demographic that I'm speaking to and teaching these strategies, that threat is right here already. That you students and your employees, you're the first line of defense. Yeah, law enforcement going to show up defense. Like, yeah, you have a school resource officer. I get it. You got one, you got two, inside the school, you might have more. But the student that's going to end up doing the shooting can watch where the resource officers go and know where they are and where they aren't. And they're going to pull off what they're going to pull off long before that resource officer gets there. They're not going to do it in front of them. However, learning these proactive situational strategies, they can mitigate it long before the attack.
Oh, yeah. A lot of times these have been planned out for a long time. They sit and watch and plan.
Yeah. I say they watch, they blend, they befriend, then boom.
Mhm.
That's what happened. So even the Florida State shooting here a couple of weeks ago, that student, so I look up every time these things happen, everyone said, what's the motive? What's the motive? What's the motive? And if the person didn't identify the motive or reveal the motive, then it just keeps it together, right? In most cases, more than 90% of the time, something was presented that was overlooked in some way, shape, form, or fashion. So when I say that the fellow student is the first line of defense, here's a prime example from that shooting. This student, Eichner, but they go to the name Phoenix Eichner, he belonged to this group. And this group is like a political group of students, right? And the only rule they had was you can't be a Nazi. Other than that, you can be in the group. But Eichner expressed white supremacist extremism as well as far right extremism to the point where they kicked him out because of that. Like he was too extreme for them. And, but that was the sign. That was the sign of something. So think about this. You have fellow students in this group on this campus where there's fellow students, and you have someone, first you have a belief, you have an ideology, then you could become radicalized about it, or you become extremist about it. Once they're extreme about it, it's just a matter of time before it's done, in some way, shape, form, or fact. So you put everything in front of them. He was so extreme, they kicked him out of the group, but they didn't tell anybody. So he's not good enough for your group, or you're afraid that he's so extreme in your group, you don't know what's going to happen. But what about these fellow students on his campus? They don't even know. And you told no one.
It's like that saying,
So
if you see something, say something.
That was the time. That was the opportunity. Yeah. They're the first line of defense. So when I wrote the book, and that's why I say, God sent me to do this work. But I put those strategies in the book, and I'll follow in different types of attacks. It comes through when I wrote it, I said, well, even if the military doesn't do something, they don't change what they're doing. They keep doing what they're doing, keep getting what they're getting. And then 6 years later, in 2009, a major United States Army killed people at Fort Hood, Texas. That same thing, same reason, same ideology. But, it's a copycat world. He saw a soldier do it, and don't think get away with it, but pull it off, right up, put everybody knows, and he did the same thing because nothing was done about it. And since that time, so unarguably, in my opinion, Akbar, the attacker at Fort Hood, Freddie Osman, was inspired and motivated by Akbar. Could he just be in a copycat? If he did it, I can do it. And then further down the line, in 2019, a Coast Guard officer, he was plotting to kill some politicians. He had a hit list to kill politicians. And the only reason he got caught was because he was using the government computer to see if the politicians had Secret Service protection and everything. And it was using his government computer for that and some other things to look them up and everything. And that's how he got caught. But he had Fort Knox of ammunition in his house. Ammunition, over 100 guns and everything in this hit list. Yeah, but still, it just goes on. I think all inspired by Akbar, because Akbar, this one, another soldier that fought through Georgia, almost in 2021. He had joined the military. Shortly after joining the military, within a year, he's communicating with ISIS. And he eventually was hearing ISIS, some of our, not our war plans, but our fighting tactics. And he wanted to deploy with his unit to help ISIS kill fellow soldiers while deployed. But join the army to do that. All inspired by Akbar. But he did it, so I can do it. So that's like with that quote, that no profession, level of education, ideology, or religion is above reproach. There is no profile. The inside of threat is closer than you think. It didn't have a color. It didn't have a look. It didn't have a what you get there from. It didn't have a language that they speak.
You never really know someone's true motives.
Right.
That's scary.
I think, yeah. I think that's so. In doing a book, like I said, I started following all these different stories. I'll share one more. There was a colonel, commander of Canadian Royal Air Force, and he eventually murdered two people. He was, highly regarded as the commander of the base, right? Highly regarded. He had been the Queen's Guard before. He was breaking into females' houses and taking their underclothes, and he'd just take their underclothes. Sometimes he'd just put them on. He might tie them up and put them on in front of them, or he would just take them back to his house. So when he finally got caught, in his house was just, fracture of the lady's underclothes. And he ended up killing two women, one of which was one of his own soldiers.
Mm.
So like you say, you don't know. That one, then there was another thing that came up when I was writing a book that said these are insider threats. So I came up with the idea of how we mitigate these things. Because the Akbar one, like I told you by his diary, we were never going to know. We weren't going to know that because we didn't have the diary. We don't go home with them at night. But I came with these proactive strategies. The first one, so when I'm speaking to the audiences, I lay out these strategies. And the first one is trust no one. Now, I know people are going to trust, but to hear trust no one makes them think. I hope it makes them think about how they're going to trust and who they trust. That's the thought process about saying trust no one. Then I remind them, hey, I trusted too. I trusted the person who took extremist ideas to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and then he tried to kill me. But did kill two people and wound 13 others. So, and as I picked those here, that was the first thing that went out the window for me was trust. But the whole uniform in the Army and all that, through that. Next one is observe, listen, and report. So I used to be like I left the military, I was a department building manager. So I left the military, I was an actor and military technical advisor in Hollywood. And also managed an apartment building. And I just figured out this apartment building. And I was coming out one door, and I think it's January, February. Come out this spring, it's January. Come out this door, and someone's fog gosh, was starting to get dark, and I realized the light wasn't on. So I go back in the building, and I come out another door, the light's not on. So I go back in, I get a pen and a piece of paper, and I start writing down these things. So I came outside and look at the building, try to see where lights are on, what's working or not working, right? And while I'm writing down, like if someone's looking at me right now, they should think that this is business behavior. It's case. I go back in, about another door, do the same thing, go back in. So now I'm checking the interior lights. That when I make an order, I can just make one order. I get up to the fifth floor, then I hear, oh, okay, I know what this means. Somebody's behind me and they have a gun, right? They're the police. And, put your hands up, drop what's in your hand, there goes a pen, there goes a paper, hands behind your head, get on your knees, they come behind me and take up, right? Well, before they get that far, I say, okay, I hear the voice that's talking to me. I know it sounds younger than mine. So, okay, I don't want there to be no accident, I don't want there to be no itchy fingers, right? So they handcuff me. But so when you pick the description of someone that was called here, no, I have the description. Remember, I already told myself, if someone looking at me right now, they should think this is business behavior. So maybe I called it on myself, right? So I applauded someone being situationally aware that they observed and they reported. I was happy for that. I wasn't so happy the fact that 5 police officers showed up with weapons drawn for one person who was armed with a pen and a piece of paper. Wasn't so happy about that. But my point is, someone was observing, someone was reporting. All right. Next one is just know your neighbor. And I don't mean your next door neighbor. You can know them as much as they allow you to. But that's the student knowing a fellow student. That's an employee knowing a fellow employee. The more you know them, like if you don't know people anymore, no, we don't. But you can try to get to know them. Try to talk to them, see what they're going to tell you. If once they start telling you and start talking, they'll tell you everything. Somebody cut me off from work today. I'm thinking about going back there and doing whatever. They will tell you everything. And which is fine. Are you going to go do whatever? Or when I got their license plate, I'm going to look it up. I know somebody can look this, and are they detailing a plan to do something? That's just someone who they thought cut them off, who probably didn't. They put the signal and you didn't let them over. So that's your van. I don't know. My point is that they will tell you. If they're mad at the boss and the boss gets something out of order, one of the things people start saying in order to do something. Now they already said, but people start here. It's 50-50. Once they start saying something, they start going up. It now becomes 55, 60. They keep talking about it, goes up. They get up into 75, they start creating a plan. They start saying what they're going to do and how they're going to do it. It's just a matter of time. We hear it all the time. So if you know them or try to get to know them, then they'll begin to tell you that the major that I told you, the attacker in Fort Texas, after 911, he applauded the acts of 911. But the people who were working with him didn't say anything about that. Only time we learned that he had said that, those people mentioned that after he killed one of the people in Fort Texas. Then they said, oh, well, he applauded the attacks of 911. Well, we need to know that when he said it, not years later after people are dead.
Right.
But they were right there in the room. They were listening, but they didn't report. So the next one is listen, don't just hear. So the college student, they were in a classroom in criminal justice class, and they were talking about guns. So the professors in there and everything, talking about guns. People say, well, I have a gun, I have a gun. These are sophomores. So 19 years oldish. And one guy says, well, I have a gun. I have an AK-47, and it's in the trunk of my car. They're on campus, right? They must kind of laugh or whatever. The class goes over. Class is over. And one student goes back and he tells the person in charge of the door. The front was in class, we're talking about guns. And he said, I have an AK-47, it's in the trunk of my car, and it sounded a matter of fact. Not the professor. He didn't tell anybody. Like 19-year-old student told somebody. So that student comes back to his, to the door. And then he's escorted to his car. They get about 100 feet from his car. He says, I just want you to over so we get to my car. I have an AK-47 in the trunk of my car. Now, in this case, no ill will was planned. He had purchased the gun legally. Wasn't supposed to have it on campus. But the plan was the day prior, he was going to take it to his friend's dad's house, who granted permission for the gun to be stored at his dad's house, who lived in a rural area. And him and his buddy would go out to his dad's house and shoot the weapon out there. Keep it locked out there, then come back to campus. But they met late up the day prior. Really keeping it in his car. His mistake was running his mouth. But he almost got away with it. Not that again, no ill will was clear. Only one person was listening, not just hearing. All the rest of them heard it, but they weren't listening. That puts the emphasis on listening, not just hearing. Even going back to a sign of dog. Then last one is the gut check. Like your gut's going to tell you everything. You hear all the time, like, I always thought that, I always thought that something, I always thought that I knew something. Well, you didn't do nothing about it. But what did you know? And in detail, what did you know? What did you think? What did you feel? Did you feel enough? There was detail enough to report. So could you put your gut feeling, into words to do what you report? Sometimes it could have been done about this strong gut feeling that you think it's this, and this. But we always find out about the gut feeling after people are dead and wounded. I think let's keep that. Be it all the time. It's too late now. What are you going to do with that now? It's no good. So, where it seems like, then again, this won't solve every single thing. It definitely won't solve every single shooting, don't get me wrong. But it does provide proactive measures for insider threats that people can be the first line of defense, especially in those schools and in the workplaces.
I like those because they make great sense and they're easy to remember. And if you think about it, the verbiage is perfect. Like, listen, don't just hear it. Like, listen to what people are actually saying, because sometimes they're telling you a lot, just not in the
They're telling you.
words.
Right. And just like the Florida, just like the Florida State shooter. The thing, now I don't know exactly what he was saying, but when you become extreme, everything's coming out of your mouth. To the point where they knew it and kicked him out of the group. So now you got two things going on with him, right? You have this thing. I was allowed to be in this group to express everything that the group was supposed to be about. I took it to a different level, and they kicked me out. So now you have this sense of not belonging anymore to the group that you was able to let it all out. Now you got to go away. We going on. I'm an extremist. I'm an extremist against these two things. There everyone out there who's not for me, you're against me. Because I'm extreme about this. And now I'm kicked out of this group. I don't even belong anymore. So I might as well, whatever, fill in the blank.
It's not a good reason, but you can understand why people may go to where they go.
Yeah. And that's why they go. It's the same thing as the person who is, when schools are very, very tricky because we all grew up, we all know how someone was bullied or how someone was shamed or whatever. And, kids are relentless, Students are relentless like that. Because they could be a 20-year-old student. But they're relentless when they want to be relentless. And if the person isn't strong enough to separate themselves from it, then they, at some point, they just feel, I'm not going to take it anymore. You have that part of it going on. And then, when we're young and when we can talk and form strengthens and everything, what's one of the first few things that we're asked by people or even parents even. What are you going to be? What are you going to be when you grow up? When you get that and you get a little bit more and you get a little bit more. My point is, now that teenagers are not being able to really be, it's like they are almost pushed in a corner to what are you going to believe? What do you believe in? You don't believe in something and you stand for nothing. So they're being pushed to believe in something. They're being pushed to vote. And rightfully so, by voting age, but they're learning more about it. Now they're at the form an opinion. Good, bad, right or wrong, one side or the other, maybe in the middle, whatever. But my point is they are being pushed to believe in something. Now, does they have this belief? Does it even move to a point of an ideology, which I think is a little bit stronger than a belief? And then do you just stay there? Or you become radicalized about it? And can you just stay there? Or if you go, extreme about it. So I'm not surprised by this. And again, it's what they believe and why they believe it. The parents are shocked that their child believes in this so strongly. Where they come from? We never talked about this. They don't know. The parents that are in Missouri and the kids on Columbia University campus out there doing what they do based on their belief. But parents, they believe that strongly about it. Like, where's it come from? So, because we are, I have to use the word forced, asking them to believe in something, that they're going to find it and they're going to start believing it. But it's happening younger and younger.
Yeah, I agree.
It's just a matter of they're going to get to the point of, radicalization and extremism. All you got to do is get the right people in the right group and then it picks one or another. There you go.
Yep, oil and fire. And then you got boom. If somebody wanted to work with you, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
What about that? Yeah, they do a beat first. Yep. They'll provide workshops. Do the public speaking on this, but also can follow up and do, workshops as well. Our students, if there was a group to be able to affect the most, it's going to be them. Their future. I think academic institutions They want to protect them. They're responsible for their safety, but I'm not sure what they're doing about their education. Some of them would think that just these simple things that I talked about, or saying that this person got shot and this person died, or people killed and well, they know that. That's not super sensitive. It's not more sensitive when it comes out of my mouth. I'm not dramatizing it. I'm not showing pictures of it. That is the end result. And they already know that. They're already doing drills about it. They're doing reactive drills. I'm teaching proactive strategies. They are in the environment. That resource officer ain't going to get there in time. They have not gotten there. We never hear that the student was committing an attack and they got shot right before they shot somebody first. Never. It might have been foil, but if it's foil, it's not foil that the person was getting ready to take the gun out, and that's when they stopped it. It was foil because they messed up their plan, and really, that first line of defense did one of these things that I talked about, and that's how it got foiled. The person got super sloppy, or someone stepped in and said, "I heard this, I'm going to go tell." The exercise one of these things, that's how it gets foiled. There was a student, was 14 years old. He told him, like, "Hey, don't come to school on this day because I'm going to shoot up school." And the student wasn't told. And the government exchange student. So the guardians that he was staying with didn't even know. He had ordered different parts of a gun and put it together, and that's the one he's going to use for the attack. But his buddy, told on him. He thought he's telling his buddy in confidentiality, but his buddy reported. And then he said, "Oh, well, it's just joking." But here's my thing about that type of joke. It's not a joke. You remember the days when we would say, "Oh, that's the bomb." So if you heard, "Oh, that's the bomb," what did that mean? What did that
I
mean?
mean, oh, this is great. This is the best.
That's right. It was cool. It'd be great. It's the best, right? Yeah. But then after 911, we couldn't say it no more. So you can't say it in the airport. You can still say it, but you can't say it in the airport, right?
Right.
How many times have you heard someone say, "That's the bomb"? Sit there.
Not very. I told someone the other day they were
Yeah.
the bomb.com.
Yeah, you did it in the run. I get it. Yeah. But not as a great. You know, again, that was the context of a great. But you get my point, you don't hear it anymore. It's been replaced with that's something else. That ran. No one things, but one thing is not is the bomb. They just said you can't say it in the airport. They didn't say you need to stop saying it for the rest of your life. That's what we started doing. Saying it for the rest of our lives. Because no one would screw around with that. Because we say it some places that are kind of, "Oh, that's the bomb," and people think it's the bomb. Not, it's cold. So we just don't say it no more. They don't say it in the airport. We don't say it no more. My point is, when someone says something like this young student did, we have to believe her. There's no more joking about this stuff anymore. If you said it, then we expect it to happen. I don't care if it was saying you with a gun or not. We figured that you had the means to go get one, find one, buy one, borrow one, or whatever to do what you said.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. You can't play around anymore these days because you
Yeah.
never know who's telling you the truth, but in their own way.
Yeah, you report it and let those people that you reported to us, let them sort it out. Then it's on their head. But if you don't report it, then we get, "I always knew. Well, he said it, but I ain't believe he's always joking." There's no joking no more. As I said, we don't say the bomb no more. There's just none of that anymore. That was cool 5 years ago, 10, 15, no, but not anymore. It's 2025. You say you're going to do it, then we expect you to do it. You've been held accountable for your mouth saying it. I expect you to be bringing a gun tomorrow.
Exactly. As it should be. Instead of people just playing it off and acting like it wasn't said, because it could happen.
Yeah. And that's why we need them to know that it could happen. That person's not joking. We don't joke like that. So that's kind of the lesson that people need to they need to take away and need to learn is we're not talking about that stuff anymore. We got to be proactive with this, that they are the first line of defense. Law enforcement gets it eventually, but that's reactive when the bullets are firing. They're telling you what's happening long before they do it.
Right, right.
Well, I say long. It might be the morning up. It might be the post on social media, right before. But what did they put out there long before the post on social media? That was missed if you're not leveraging the situational awareness strategies.
Right. And it's great advice. And I think people need to listen. Don't just hear. I'm gonna be saying that all the time now.
There you go.
Oh, Bob, I want to thank you so much for being here. I think this was good information. I'm going to make sure I put your links in the show notes for people to come find you and for your book.
Well, thank you. I appreciate
Of
that.
course.
Yeah, I don't know why I forgot the wherewithal. Why I think I got it from was that I wanted people to know the story, but also I didn't want them to be left like we were, like, did this happen? Why did this happen? And more importantly, it was that there was something that stuck with me all this time. It always been, how did we not know? I told you why we didn't know, but still, like, we were never going to know that. But what was put out there that we just didn't speak?
Right.
So he was good. He was good. But it led me to come up with this strategy for people to look for